Yay! What better way to start a Monday morning than a lovely conversation, the trifecta of us three together, the energies that flow, the words that present themselves to bring we hope peace and harmony for people to understand what's going on right now and
Mhm.
how we can all benefit from this closing, not just of a year or a season, but
So much.
but
So much. Yeah.
yeah, but so much more energetically. And I just want to say thank you, Ashala. How are you doing today?
Really well. Absolutely delighted and honored to be here with both of you. And I'm coming in on the tail end, well, not even the tail end, sort of midstream of a 4-day retreat, which is my family foundation business vision retreat.
Beautiful.
And it's a lot about what's going on, as you were just so eloquently describing, at this particular poignant turn of the wheel of time, the end of all these different eras,
Yeah.
and new moon in Capricorn falling right in alignment with the turning of the wheel of the year. So beautiful for starting, like establishing a new system that's built on a whole different foundation, a whole different paradigm foundation. So anything that we build from here, from this place of the renewal, the like, yeah, just this time of the Aquarian, merging into the age of Aquarius, and all that we've let go of in these last few
Mm,
months and few years, such a pivotal point.
beautiful.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel very alive and grateful, and not only hopeful, but really inspired about where we
Beautiful.
are. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been a lot of letting goes, right? Many of us are so used to being able to predict,
Hmm.
control,
Hmm.
create in an old pattern and paradigm that no longer works. And so
Hmm.
as we move into this new, it can feel a little bit unstable, people, just to be honest. And
Hmm.
so even, for myself running a painting business and that, is it almost feels like it's more of a struggle than a fluid motion, but I
Hmm.
know it's intentional that I pay attention to that,
Hmm.
but also create the new. So what's a new way of being? What else can we offer, so to speak? And
Hmm.
adventures for connection and, super excited to see what the future holds. Because when we try and control it, we play too small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And I do feel like the the mission and the value. I mean, it's interesting. We've been working on mission statements and value statements, and it's sort of like the nesting doll syndrome, because you start with the big, well, there's the company or the mission or vision of our foundation, and then it moves down into like specific. Even we've been looking at, we're working on some financial um, mission statements today, and we're just changing the wording. We don't even like the word financial, right? And
Right?
so we're just really teasing in to redesign from the core of things, from this new ethical, um, really, I want to say, dignified, integral human integrity place. And it it's a great time of year to do that deconstruction, reconstruction. It not only of the year, but of the larger sort of constellation of what's going on astrologically over the last 5 years and in the next 5 years. This is a moment where we can just indulge ourselves in taking the time to deconstruct things and rebuild them with new languaging, new intentions, new values at their core.
Right.
Right.
And I'd be so curious to learn more about your Adventures for Connection mission statement and value statement, because it feels like that is where like the wind in your sails is really going to come in this year, is through
Absolutely.
like really acknowledging, revisiting, maybe even reformulating that a little bit, and just catching the wave of people that this is what they're reaching for and ready for next.
Well,
It feels
yeah.
so much like meaningful connection, experiential, integrated
Right?
in landscapes and cultures and all of that. Yeah.
Well, I find so many people, we've been ahead of the curve, so to speak, because we've been talking about we're not gurus. Don't put us on a pedestal. We are simply here to assist in guiding and mirroring for people their authentic selves, to give them the space to feel safe, a safe container,
Yes.
to take off the masks and to authentically share what's going on for them, and really hold that space. And so many have been still looking externally for the answers that are actually within. And
Yes.
so it's a bit of an excavation process, but it's a really beautiful and profound transformation. Yeah.
Well, it's
Absolutely.
interesting, the answers are within, but they're accessed through connection
Yes.
and relationship.
Absolutely.
Bingo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Bingo.
we think we have this idea, I'm going to go within, I'm going to sit and meditate and be alone and journal and write, and we're still there going around our loops, right?
Right? Absolutely.
We could say, okay, when I tune in, this is what I really value. This is what I prioritize. This is what my soul desires the most. And then we interact either through, and it's in a meaningful ways, right? Like, so what you're offering, these events, these journeys, these cultural immersions, where I love how you do it because it's open-ended. It's like, we don't know, we can't control everything. We're not going to say you should have these experiences. We're saying, show up in your authenticity, in your vulnerability, and then we'll collaboratively share and co-create, and something will emerge.
Yeah.
And
even greater than anyone could have
exactly,
anticipated. Yeah.
Exactly. And it always is that.
Yeah.
Well, and it is profound that you even bring this up, of course, sitting here and we got this energy connection right now, where a lot of what I've been focusing on is understanding that, throughout my life, the one thing that I come to understand is, even though I might have hit those stagnant positions and places, because it takes time to really sit with what we're going through and what it is that we're ultimately wanting to understand about our experiences. So the one thing that keeps coming through for me profoundly is understanding that every time we choose to change something about ourselves or about our experiences or about what's taking place in our environment, it's about understanding that every time we do that, we're creating a new foundation. And what we have to understand is we've got to get out of that mentality of that programmed state of thinking that I'm in the state of Georgia. I live at on this particular land. Because when we understand that when a being is in motion, that in that motion, they may be in a particular place. Let's look at the 7 years. Our body shifts and changes. Well, so does our mental capacity to understand who we are, that growth as we're going along. So every 7 years, unless we hit that stagnant place where this programming kind of got us to that state of being stuck, that a state is not a place that you live in. A state is a choice of what you are choosing to be and become through that being. So our state is those new foundations each time that we're building those new structures of understanding upon the foundation in which we have laid. And when we understand that foundation is done and we feel that we've hit those the monumental points of, oh, it's time for a new foundation. in your line is because you've hit that point, then the ones behind you that are in that process at that time for them will have the foundation to begin off of.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we will keep
Oh.
that structure and just shift it to where it's something they're comfortable in their ways. Because when we move out of a place, what do? We leave it vacant, but it doesn't mean that the structure is still not solid.
Wow.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Wow. Thank you, Norma. And that really excites me to imagine, like, just feeling into and hearing what you were sharing, Tanya, about what do you do or how do you evolve in your various different businesses. And interestingly, exactly what Norma just said about you've created this foundation, you've created this, this system with over lots of years of design and redesign. And, that at some point is something that can literally be like others can step right in and just sort of carry that tradition on. So, this could be a time where you're like, that's being added into the mix. There's exactly what Norma just said. How does what I've already designed create the stepping stone for others to step in? Because that's exactly what they're ready for.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then you're about to step onto a stone that is more what you're ready for. Of course, you're still going to be in that other, back and forth dancing.
Bridging.
But bridging, yeah. And it really feels like this is a year where we're going to be doing that launching pad stuff. Like, I just love that analogy of the state and the stabilizing foundations that we're not stuck on those places. And there's always, like, guaranteed someone or a group of someone's that's their ideal next step, what you've just designed.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I just want to acknowledge Dina here, baking bread while she's listening. Beautiful. And arrowroot flour everywhere. Awesome.
It's a sign.
It's going to come out of it. Perfect analogy.
Yeah, right.
When she goes in to cook, and if there's something to clean up, it's like, oh, she's just spreading her love in everywhere. So, just love it to wherever it needs to go, because wherever that flour that's left over that goes in the trash, guess where it goes? It goes to the loving place of wherever it ends up, wherever that trash is. That transfers.
Yeah.
So you see, it's just an enormous amount of love being passed around.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you're alchemizing, Dina. Thank you for sharing that. What do the cards want to share for us on this beautiful?
So I've been sitting here holding these two because I was shuffling. Then I opened it. I just open it randomly and see what comes. And these are the two that came. So I feel like, let's just start with today. Let's start with, like, we know we're setting tone right now. We know there's something going on around this particular portal of the new moon in Capricorn at this particular time of this particular year with all the other astrological configurations. And then, of course, tomorrow going into the turn of the year. So based on all that, using these two things as a guide, we have, on the one hand, this is very practical, this card. It's a lot about, I like to say, designing the story of the 10 numbered suit cards of Pentacles. When we get to number 8, we've got some things in motion. We've built some stuff. We've established some material things. We've established some practical patterns. This is a lot about patterns, practical patterns, productive patterns. And while we're waiting for the rest of the world to catch up, while we are, maybe the next foundation stone isn't fully complete yet for us to step onto, I like to say about this card, we can always be polishing our pentacles into diamonds while we're waiting. So there's something very honorable about taking this time. I'm hearing that it'll go on even for the next 7 or 8 days, that we kind of go back to the drawing board. We do an inventory, we reassess, we polish up what our offerings are, what our products are, what our gifts are, how we yeah, they're just showing me, like, if you had a store, a bricks and mortar store, it would be like cleaning, redesigning, re-merchandising, polishing everything up to have a grand reopening in about a week in the new year. So and I'm even hearing the 8th of January, and I'm hearing something between the 8th of January and the 3rd of March. We're going to be really on a launching pad of kind of, I want to say, polishing up what we've already been doing. We don't know what's going to happen with it. We don't know, is it going to be transformed into something else? Is it going to be passed on to the next person? Is it going to suddenly take sail and flourish? We don't know, but we do know that we're going to finish out this part of the process and love every minute of it. Kind of like loving what you've built already.
Right. And that's a beautiful message. As you were talking about the leap pad, I was showing there's those obstacle courses on the water in the summertime in like Kelowna. We don't have one down here, but they're like these floating obstacle courses, and you can go up and down. You got to get across, and half the time you're sliding into the water, especially when you first get on. But as you master your balance and you master your skill set and you get to know your foundation, your body, and how to move it properly, all of a sudden you're excelling and you're doing great, and you're, beating all the kids, so to speak, who can't hang on, and you're having fun and it's playful, and you no longer feel like, oh my God, I can't do this. What am I doing on this thing? So it's the same analogy as what you're saying. It's like, okay, let's play with some new things. Let's try it another way. Let's have another position and test it, because that's really how we're going to find out what feels good for us, what we think feels good versus how we feel in our bodies to embody it. And then as we share with others, what is the response that we get from them?
Yes, yes. And the 8s are predictable patterns. Woo! Oh, look at that. Just fell. And out came the judgment card, which is really like, okay, interesting. I have to show you what happened there. This one fell, the 8 fell. Underneath it was the 3 of Swords, which is a process of revisiting the sorrowful, hurt things. Now, interesting, those both just fell together and this came out. So I get that we could, now I'm not talking about spiritually bypassing it. I'm talking about like just put in the side pocket, like save for another time when it's going to be the right time. Now is not the right time to do a lot of the deep inner emotional process. It doesn't mean that we spiritually bypass it. It means that we respectfully kind of contain it and set it aside for now, because we're about to go through this really big gateway. And if we're deep in process and completely like kind of inwardly absorbed with that, it's going to be hard for us to really show up. And it's just not the right time. It's like we're in this other part of the process right now. And I'm getting, again, I had the 3rd of March, and then this is getting into the month of April. So, we've done a lot of deep personal grief work, trauma work. And I'm not saying that we don't do any of that, but I'm saying that sort of goes down a few notches coming into this next few months at least. and we get into a different kind of, I want to say, new sovereign, practical system building, practical, foundational, setting in motion new foundational systems, basically, because there's going to be a really big expanded opening by April where we'll be very busy with what we've set. Now, the last one that was on the other side is our goddess, the Empress. Okay. Now, our goddess represents a lot of things. She represents the divine feminine. She represents the energy of the mother, the nurturer, our mother figures. However, more appropriately, I think for the start of this era, she represents the feminine approach, which is that, diverse, holistic approach. It's not the linear, one track. This is how we do this. It's the full, it's all perspective, right? Holistic.
You know what the word is that I'm getting from this? A purposeful priority. A purposeful priority. And that just came through whenever you was expressing that with, with the cars, the way they fell. And it's just profound, because the one thing, and it's, syncs always lead to links. And this is what's so profound and beautiful about this for me, is this morning, this new day that I awoke. And when I'm sitting with myself in the mornings, as I'm coming to, and I have that in-between moment, I had that moment where the feminine and the masculine energies and the understanding of the balance of the two, that came forward for me, saying, do you recognize the difference? Do you recognize that for me, if I looked at it, my character is masculine, yet my approach is feminine in what it is that I am creating here? So it's like, oh, okay, I'm getting this. And then it led to more into, more understanding about Kundalini and things, which I'm not going to get into, but it's about that understanding, like I've always talked about that beautiful dance with the masculine and feminine, and you have to have that dance with each of them. And as I've been in this creative process, especially for the last year with T, with AFC, with the other, many other things that are coming in, my dance routine with one another is becoming so much more perfected. And I understood that I have to have patience with that, because there's much for me to understand even in that process, to know that when we have that beautiful dance with the masculine and feminine within us, and we are able to stay in that that beautiful new habit of being, and that's having that dance each day, knowing that we have to have that practice to understand each one's move and motivation of that move. So it's just profound. I wanted to share that because of what we're speaking to here, because it's like you're just hitting the with the hammer, so to speak, because these are just present things that have just been working with me, and I'm sitting within that process. My masculine and feminine are speaking to one another, and they're both finding that time where I can have that oneness to be in that process of that new build, or that section of what I'm building on top of this new foundation. We are still understanding if something needs to be tweaked. If something to be added to. Do we need to add another room, so to speak? So in these many rooms that you go in, and you take that time in that room to understand what's the setup, how is it that is to be presented. So it's very beautiful to understand what foundation truly signifies when we are creating something new to present to our collective, which is part of us. So,
Yes.
and it all depends on your foundation is congruent with where you're at in your journey as
Mhm.
to what the structure is you're building upon it. So you must be very, precise
Exactly.
what type of foundation you're wanting to build this particular structure upon.
I was just about, because I opened the deck again. Here's the next two showing up. And I was just about to say, interesting about this, because this one is the sovereign. So it is our creation of ourselves. We are the platform, right? So exactly what you just said of, I'm getting as within, so without. We can't just grow ourselves from what we produce and do out in the world inward, but we can't just grow ourselves inward to produce whatever shows up. Like, we do both, right? It's a back and forth. And what I'm hearing is there's something about, because that 8 of Pentacles, this is the next pentacle, this is the 9 of Pentacles, but the 8 has to do with habits. So we often talk at this time of year about, what are your habits? What have you kind of sort of maybe slid into some habits that you're not so keen on? Maybe you want to address or call in some new habits or revisit some older habits. This is a lot. We really set the tone for the year at this pivotal turning point every year, but this year in particular. And I was contemplating about habits the other day, and what I was realizing, and I love this, and I've done this in my life so many times, and I always forget. I'm always like, oh yeah, right, I should do that. It's like, I don't focus as much on like stopping bad habits. I just add a whole bunch of new healthy ones, and the old ones just kind of get edged out. They're like, I don't really have time. Oh, suddenly I'm not really that interested in that anymore. It's like, if you start adding a lot of the things, like, what do you value about yourself? And again, this is the indulgence of the time to say, take stock, not about, oh, I really slid down this year and I've developed these bad habits and now I'm like hard on myself, and how am I going to get back to that? And I'm just going to have to stop being me. BS. You do not stop being you. You just reactivate the other parts of you that went a little dormant, and they will just kick butt and move all that other stuff that you slid into out of the way. It's like, you don't have to reinvent yourself. You just have to remember yourself.
Yep.
And get back into the habit of who you really are. And don't worry about the things that you've slid into, or the negative patterns, or, anxieties or health conditions or whatever. Obviously, you're going to continue to care and attend for those things, but this is a time to reestablish a clear tone. Who are you? Who are you? What do you value? And then that will motivate you to clear the space. It's sort of like an energetic feng shui of ourselves.
Absolutely. It reminds me of, especially after the holiday season, for so many of those that indulged, right? Don't beat yourself up. Let's just add that shake back in, or make sure we have a salad before we eat anything else. So just shift. And it's those little incremental shifts that add up to so much, as you just said. Absolutely. Yeah. It's beautiful.
And yeah, it definitely staying out of that judgment position.
Right.
I'm sorry, as human beings, we got so good at that with ourselves. And what we must realize and recognize is that we've got to get out of the judgments of the choices we've made. We've just got to be able to get to that higher perspective, to be able to see that we made choices from where we were, given what we understood about life and what we understand about ourselves. But in creating those new habits, create new habits that teach you about self.
Mm-hmm.
What you're capable of. What are you ultimately capable of? Because it's just a change of pace through keeping a higher frequency for the vibratory rate of change for new habits. What am I ultimately capable of when I set my mind to accomplish? It's a mindset.
Yeah.
It's a mindset, and then an affirmation. Like, whenever you hesitate to do something is good for you, or you should be doing, or you need to get it done. So versus procrastinating, do it now. And just run that mantra through your head. Do it now.
Mm.
Do it now. Do it now. Do it now. Make
Do
a
it
little
now.
dance to shift
Do it
your
now.
energy.
Do it
And
now.
before you know it, you're like, oh yeah, that was easy. What did I do? You know, half the time you finally get it done. And you're like, what took me so long? So
Mhm.
just through. Go ahead.
I noticed, Norma, you said the choices we made because for whatever reason, the state we were in or whatever.
Mm.
And what I heard when you said that was we didn't actually make conscious choices. It's when we slid into unconsciousness and we're grappling with all of the complexities and stressors and traumas and issues of our lives that slides us deeper into unconsciousness. That's not necessarily a choice. It's a
Mm.
pattern, and it can become a habit, and then it can become a really big limiting disability. But all we're shifting from is consciously saying, oh, actually, I'm going to make a choice. Because if you consciously make a choice, I would predict that any of you watching are likely consciously capable and desiring to make choices for your benefit. So it's really about like it's like getting stuck in this glue of unconsciousness, right? I don't think we're actually really making choices in that state. We're just being pulled along. And
Yes.
so what the difference
We're
is
being
that
herded.
it isn't, yeah, being herded. It literally is like we just come up for air and go, I'm making a conscious choice right now. Like Tanya said, I'm going to go have a walk. I'm going to go eat that salad. I'm doing it now. It's like,
Yeah.
it could just be a moment of conscious awareness and make a choice. And don't lament over, I should have made that choice yesterday, or why did I make a bad choice yesterday? Now look at what happened. No, you weren't actually making a choice. Yesterday, you weren't making a choice. You were
Right?
unconsciously pulled in to this soupiness of all our collective trauma, shame, anxiety, and
Yeah.
that's like join the human race. Like we're all doing that.
Yeah.
And so it's the consciousness is going, whoop, I'm awake right this second and I'm going to do something. Knowing that we will probably get pulled back into that soup. But the goal is really to be like more and more and more, oh, like I woke up first thing in the morning, I just do these 2 or 3 things. A lot less likely I'm going to get really pulled down into the soup today. Because like I said, I put in several conscious choices. I literally peppered it all with conscious choices. It's like just going to lift you up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that compounds over time, gets magnified. So it's not huge change, guys. It's the little incremental things that mean the most. Absolutely. To be kind to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. In as we have this conversation, it's about the profound inner, really, truly profoundness to what we're speaking to here, because making those little choices where we're being conscious, what we're doing is we are setting ourselves up to become more prepared for that responsible role as a human being in our co-creative processes. That until we feel that we get to those spaces and places within ourselves that, oh, I feel more responsible and more adept in my
Yeah.
understanding in this area of my life. So I feel that I'm able to have the ability to look back on the choices I made, which provides me with the message that I may be able to convey to others that, hey, I was here. I made these choices. I had to go through this time to understand that. I had to understand that this is what it takes to have that responsibility. And to understand that what we're doing is when we talk about the neophyteness, you got to understand that it's a definement, it's a statement, but it's something to utilize to help people to understand where you are in a process. There are many areas still that I'm still a neophyte in, because I am still mastering that part of myself to understand how to present it to others in a way that assists them, and hopefully doesn't take them as long as it did me, to provide them with that information that will help them not be so judgmental of self, not be so hard on self, that it is from the unconscious to the conscious levels of adeptness of understanding self to understand how our co-creative process of the new experiences of our own journey, much we say we want to have as a whole, as a collective.
Absolutely. And I just want to comment too, as she's saying, responsibility. That means you have the ability to respond, and even respond differently than you have before. So yeah, you can play with that word quite a bit.
Powerful. This is so powerful.
Oh, wordplay is where it's at. And, you know, it was so funny when we were doing the financial planning portion of our overall vision. We were like, you know, oh yeah, okay, financial planning, blah, 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 agenda, la, la, la. And then I was just like, I was writing the words and I was like, ugh, just don't like the sound of that word anymore. It's like, ooh, financial, ooh, what is that, right? And I just said, can we just change the wording? Like, even if it has to be wordy, I just want to create a different energy around those. What does it mean? Like, what is a currency, an exchange, a value, a system of value, of priorities, and we just started brainstorming. All these words were rolling out, and it was like, you can just write that out, and it sounded so powerful and magical. It's like, okay, from that place, I am very sure we are going to do amazing things, and there will be a lot of frequency and flow.
Yeah.
If we're financially planning, it's sort of like back in the old system, cowering in the corner going, oh, okay, I'm going to try this and then I'm going to do that. It's just like, it's a totally different feeling, right? And the words can be either, it's almost like that unconsciousness I was just talking about. We're unconsciously using all these word spells that have been designed to keep us unconscious, and we're just carrying right on using them, and we're all doing it. I'm not shaming any of us, but when you just say, hey, you know, maybe I want to just play around with some words here, I don't know, like something, anything is better than repeat, and how different it feels to talk about anything followed by those word spells that we've just designed. Maybe they're not perfectly formed. Maybe we don't have a catchphrase or a perfect word to replace finances, but we're off to a good start. And it feels so different to cast those word spells with this whole new, liberated from the old negative constructs. So
so we're going into Year of the Snake. We're shedding our skin, right? It's so I was up in Whistler and we did this hike, Ashala, and it was a hike. It was a mountain bike trail, and it wasn't until we came to the end. It was very snaky, just to say. And we get to the end, and I look at the sign, and it's called Tunnel Vision. I'm like, oh, there goes 2024. We're coming out of tunnel vision. And then we come to the next signpost, and there's no sign on it. And I'm like, oh, here's 2025. We can create whatever we want.
Create your own signs. Create your own languaging.
Yes, but because you're creating from a new frequency of a vibratory state, because you're creating meaning to something that you want to be able to present of an old system. And that's what this is all about. And it's so just all about. Oh, I love this. I love this because I feel like we're all in that place because we understand for ourselves right now that this is what we're here to do. We're to create this foundation of meaning to life, because we came to this space and place because we knew that the system that we were living was not working.
No,
it was not for the human race. It was only for specifics. And that's what we come to realize and recognize. And in that we've chosen I don't care what it takes. I don't care what it is that I have to go through. Show me that sovereign way to be able to convey these messages that this is the foundation we want to begin to build for the new way of being and the new way of interaction and the new way, most importantly, to communicate with one another.
Yes.
This is how we want to create this new way of living because we want to not survive anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
We want to thrive. Yeah.
Thrive.
Absolutely. It's a good word.
And come alive. Thrive and come alive, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. And as we go through this and shed the old system, so to speak, as a collective, right? It's being kind to others and being that helping hand that can show them another perspective. Because when you are in service to others, when you give those small insights, it lifts your vibration, it lifts your energy. And so, yeah, we've been going through that recently too. And then around the gratitude, right? Okay. What else would I want a gratitude wish list. What would I like to be grateful for? What resonates now to create, something anew? Yeah.
Gosh, I just pulled some more cards about what we were saying, and I got all these. Oh my gosh, look at this. So I got a lot of word rephrasing.
I love the magician.
The magician. I got a lot of word spells that are about us. Like, give yourself permission to just notice how you feel when you say something, when you say a certain words or certain phrases, and you're just going to say, it feels yucky. And what I'm being shown about the year of the snake, because we have this 2 nines, the 9 of wands, which is coming to the end of something. We're at the end and we're about to turn a corner and head back in a different direction now, in a new direction. Maybe it's not head back, but it's head in a totally different direction. And if you've ever we used to have a corn snake, and it's pretty amazing because often we think about shedding skins and we think, oh no, I'm going to take, the skin is going to come off, the old is going to come off, and there's going to be I'm going to be just vulnerable underneath. I'm going to be just like helpless and so empty and vulnerable without that system. But when you look at the snake, when it sheds its skin, it actually doesn't try to take out the trash and dump it. The new skin grows so big that the old starts to break away.
Yes.
And when you see this snake after it's finished shedding, it's gorgeous. It's so bright. Its colors are so fresh.
It's
reborn, new, vital, the most powerful it has ever been. Right? So here we are. We're like the little baby beginning snakes of ooh, I don't know. It's yucky. I feel really, because when they're in that process, it looks pretty gross, right? It doesn't look very beautiful.
Yeah.
But we're going to pick up so much steam this year. I even get by the halfway point, we're going to be looking down going, whoa, look at my new colors. Look at how vibrant and bright. I thought it was going to take me years to transmute all that BS to how do I set up a new system? Don't worry, folks. It's inside of you. It is emerging and you won't be able to stop it. It's really just about give yourself permission to let that old, bust through that, let it start to crumble away, and use new language and use new words. What are you hearing? What are you seeing?
Oh, you don't need to pick it off. Just allow it to shed.
Right? Don't pick it off. Don't pick it off.
Yeah.
It is profound because once we're done with this, there's something I want to share because now I had this
hold on one second. Can you show me the 3 cards again? What do we have there? They're all wands.
they're all wands, and that's very much like the shedding. It's energized, it's energy. So we
Right.
start off with that little baby snake. I was saying, like the little
Yeah.
page going like, okay,
Yeah.
there's an excitement, but it's very, very like tentative, naive. It's sort of like almost like fake it till you make it, a bit like the bravado of, like we just got to take that leap and jump in. But very, very rapidly, we feel the building momentum, and the old, like we get compelled, pulled. The nines are about synthesis. By the next 9 months, we will be so compelled and pulled through this process that we won't have to think anymore. So really, it's about, if you're going to use your thinking, use it to create new word spells. Use it to create new language around life, and really don't do much other thinking. Other than that, just don't even think.
Yeah. Awesome. Beautiful, Ashala. Thank you. Norma, you had a dream remembrance as Ashala was speaking.
So it's like I love it when we get together. It's just so beautiful and profound for me. I'm like, oh. So the other night, I had to travel. Of course, my travels are getting where they're multiplied in what it is I'm experiencing. And one was yesterday before we went on the live. I remembered that it was after I was in the shower, and it actually came back to me because I had this travel where I came across that I don't know if it was me in another dimension or another timeline, or if I was conscious with another that was having this experience, but they were sitting and they were in a teepee. And at the end of, I can see the legs. I'll just say I could see my legs. And what was sitting at the end of my legs was this indigenous lady, this indigenous woman. And as I'm looking at my legs, I see like what seems to be white grayish crust, and it's cracked. And she's sitting there, and I hear her clearly say to me, "We need to remove this. It's been on for too long." So as I'm sitting here and we're having this conversation, that's coming more clear to what that was signifying, because when I look at that, our judgments have held us for so long. When we begin to, every 7 years, we shed fully, completely. But when we hit a certain point in our lives, especially our 20s and 30s, where we're having those more struggles, so to speak, where that judgment becomes so much more, because we become habitual about our judgment about self, about our choices, that instead of shedding that skin, what happened was we held on to it. And for so many years of those sevens depends on the thickness of that skin that we are in the process of preparing to shed. So some of it may even be at that point where it should be simple, because now it's concreted that you hit hard enough, it's just going to fall off because you've held it for so long because of your self-judgments. So can you really, really ultimately, profoundly see the clarity of that understanding that even because it's concreted, it's going to come off so much easier. And then from there, it's going to be shedding as we go along, because what's happening is we become so grand in our newness.
Oh, yeah.
That what we have to live is excitement, joy, happiness, the clarity of, like, now I know. Now I know what's going on. And these habits and these programs is what put me where I'm at. And that weight is because this is where the weights and measures come in. Because the more weight we drop, more clarity and the smoother our journey will become, because we drop the judgments. That does away with the diseases, that does away with the mental issues and fogginess and things like that. So we're dropping this concreteness of the skins that we were not able to shed properly due to our lack of understanding what we needed that we were being given now. And this is what the whole time we was having the conversation.
Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. And I'm glad you got more clarification on that because it's been unpacking it. So awesome. There's something too about it has been far too long that we've stayed comfortable because it's the known versus making the change because we think it will be uncomfortable. So there's this
Mm.
mass net around us, and so many are going to come into this so profoundly over the next few months to let go, and they probably starting now, actually. Well, it's been going on for a while,
Mhm.
to realize that, oh, why did I hang on to this for so long? I was so uncomfortable, but because it was something I knew, it was easier than stepping into something fresh that I don't know. And so that's what we get to
Mm.
push through and break out of this and have this anew again. Yes, it's time to let go. Yeah.
It's really a beautiful metaphor, isn't it? This shedding of the skin, and
Yeah.
I keep now I'm just so remembering and reminiscing about what when I had my corn snake. And one of the things that they do when they're
Mm,
shedding, they will often kind of rub up against things and get kind of start the process somewhere with the pulling of the
it
skin.
gets itchy.
It gets itchy. And then what they do is I mean, they already slither like very undulating, right? But they really corkscrew themselves around, like they
Mm,
sort of roll around. And it's just like the guides are saying, we need to wiggle around this year. Like it's almost like imagining you're wriggling out of your skin, and any sort of movement, dance, anything that it's just keep your body
sweet.
wiggling around, right? Like they're saying, not this mechanical, like that it just like
No.
spiraling, really focusing on like that energy of the undulating, the spiraling and the wiggling.
Bringing the feminine back in.
Yeah.
Like I said, stop being so robotic, because robotic is that hard turn, that hard angle. Now let's get into that, like you said, the
Wow.
belly dancing kind of feminine way
Oh,
of approachment to shed. And that's where that dance is going to take place, because now you're bringing in the ultimate understanding of what the feminine
Uh,
represents. And that's just the movement and the
spin to win.
flow and the fluidness.
oh my
Because
goddess. Can we talk about Egypt and belly dancing, please?
right?
Right? Absolutely.
Oh
We should
yeah.
be tapping into that a bit. And so that is very close. It's so funny how one can set a date and then it's like, no, not yet. Okay. Okay. So we're really allowing it to unfold. And so we've tried and played with a couple different things. I think right now I'm doing a new recording. She gave me a script. Guess who doesn't do well with scripts?
I said, just go do it, and just do it, whatever's natural for you. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And Michelle's asking, maybe Ashala can teach us some belly dancing this
Oh my
year.
God.
Oh, yeah.
Well, in Egypt for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty much a dream of a lifetime. And I've been doing this for so very long, and it is so back on the front of the line for me now, especially with this year of the snake, I think. And it's for all of us. It is like, just especially after what just came through our guides in this live chat, is
Right.
that this is what we need this year. We need to wiggle and move our bodies. We need to undulate. We need to and I love sharing that with people. So
Yeah.
yes, most definitely. There will be dance, belly dance, and Egypt is, to me, that is a really big part of reconnecting. And people get confused about belly dance, right? They say, oh, it's Middle Eastern dance. So that's partially true. What it is it's feminine movement, as Norma Jean was just saying. It's this undulating, flowing, circular, spirally movement that is more feminine. It's universal. Every indigenous culture, all look at the Hawaiians, even the Inuit women have these spiraling things they do with their bodies. Like every culture, African women all over the world, right? Our Northern European ancestors, all females, have moved their bodies like this since the beginning of time. That's what we do, right? However, a lot of countries of the world that were dominated by the organized religions, the Western religions, especially Christianity, that kind of movement became associated with demons, devils, devil worship, paganism, blah, blah, blah. And it was completely outlawed to the point, there's the stories about the dancers, the Irish step dancing came about. They have their hands on their hips all the time. Their legs are moving like crazy, but their arms are down on their hips. The reason for that is that when they had their English overlords that were predominantly had this religious foundation of Christianity, fundamentalist Christianity, you weren't allowed to dance, especially not any sort of expressive feminine movement dance. With the arms, for example, right? And so they were out in their fields and they could dance as long as they kept their hands down because the overlords couldn't see them. So we've got a lot of dance history where parts of the world have held dance, different types of cultural dance, while other parts of the world, it was basically, programmed out. And interestingly, when the extreme Muslim, the extreme Muslim energy came in around the turn of this last century, Muslim fundamentalism came in. Belly dance, which was done in the Middle East in a lot of Muslim countries, migrated over to America and to Europe. So it's like, certain cultures kept it for alive while the other ones couldn't do it. And then it's transferred. And now these cultures are keeping it alive while these ones can't do it. So it's not just Middle Eastern dance. It's women's natural flowing movement is what it is.
Absolutely.
Which is so creative.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I adore that. Thank you, Michelle, for opening that window. We never plan these conversations. It is always what's coming through in the moment. And to just, if you want to have freedom, move your body freely. Right? This is part of this process. And it's so profound. And when you were speaking about the suppression, I kept getting, just like astronomy, following the stars, the original basis of how we have this cosmic clock has been squashed. Like, oh no, that's evil. Don't look up. And so we have this opportunity now to open our eyes wide, take the blinders off, and free ourselves from any beliefs and explore them all, because you will know what's right for you and not right for you. So instead of thinking what others might think of you, feel free, because you would be surprised who else will be unlocked by your freedom. And that will just create this combustion for everyone. And that's kind of what we're stepping into now is, a lot of us are here to show another way, to you make up your own way, but we're just going to show you that we can do it this way, or that we don't need to be constrained with our words anymore, or our actions, or our movements, or what we watch in the stars. Yeah.
When we get together. Right. Trinity. So beautiful.
Right. We are planning this trip to Egypt for, oh my gosh, in May, you guys. Yeah. For Ashala's birthday. For May. Around the sun. Yeah, absolutely. For some shedding, for some letting go of what no longer serves, and finding the goddess within you. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. For it is within you. It's within every single one of us. Yeah. And I was highly activated in Egypt. There's a lot of shedding, but highly activated in a good way, in a really good way, having more visions, seeing, like, literally closing my eyes and being led by all these elves and fairies, and they're taking me down this path down to the river, and I'm like, okay, So you can step more into who you truly are and carve out that space for you. And just like all our other connections, we have an loose itinerary. Of course, we need to, but what is beautiful is what does this group need as they come together, as we set the intention, as we start to maybe burn what we want to let go of and possibly take those ashes to the Nile and let them go.
Oh, I mean, and I think we have this idea. I certainly have been guilty of this over the years of, okay, so this is this spiritually extraordinary place. And it's like, who am I to bring my whatever I offer there? It's like it's so old and ancient and been there for eons. And we also know that it's steeped. It's got so much richness, so much exquisite, deep, profound magic, and it's also got layers upon layers upon layers of conditioned, programmed, like power dominant sickness, really, right? Like sort of thickness is what I'm hearing. And so it's got to shed its skin too. Egypt has shed its skin this year too. And so those of us, I've often felt that those of us of European extraction that were, basically we traveled the world. Yes, we did awful things along the way, conquering peoples and doing things in such a unfortunately power dominant way. However, we also have this incredible richness and medicine of transformation, because we are the people that have migrated and migrated and migrated and migrated. And we bring that energy to a place like Egypt. And especially if we do that with humility, but with personal, sovereignty and intention, we can bring such healing to those lands. And they are part of all of our collective history and origins.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so much wisdom within each of us. And so as we openly share in a safe container, we're going to see more and more come through, and you will see more of the evolution. And every time I go to Egypt, I witness more of what is a layer being taken off, right? Oh, and we'll explain that all to you before you go, so you're prepared going in, as a month before in the container with us and a month after. So it's not just, oh, I'm going for this 10-day retreat and then it's over. No, we're creating this whole container that'll carry through so that we can stay connected and we can support you in your journey should you choose. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
For me, understanding this goddess trip is deeper than just going and experiencing Egypt for what it's being, presented to people as.
Yes.
Because for so long, we have to remember that the feminine was suppressed for so long. And what's happening is we're stepping back into that empowering position as females, that getting in touch with that feminine essence of us, knowing that we're not going there to gain a goddess. We're going there to remember we're goddesses and putting that energy of that feminine essence back in place, like Egypt. We're reminding that area,
exactly,
that environment, remember who you are. What I came here to do was to remember who I am, and in that I put this feminine pure essence back into this land, into the people, because you are being suppressed, and we understand that, and it goes on no longer from this point forward. Well, now this is not about the feminine coming back in and taking control. This is about the feminine coming back in and saying, this is how the truth of the purity of understanding how the masculine and feminine are meant to flow together in the one, so that way we put that outside ourselves in this place where we bring back the truth of the frequencies and the vibrations of our original purpose.
Mhm.
Woo-wee! Yeah.
And that's all from the heart.
Yes, absolutely. And there's just so much love between us. Yeah, and we've done
Mhm.
Vedette. Yeah, and we'll do Vedette again. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was watching one of the videos from that and just being reminded, like, every time we go and we create these containers, and it's such an honor to
Mhm.
witness others find more out about themselves and to understand
Mhm.
themselves more and be willing to be a little more, to bear a little bit more of their soul towards us and the group and share. And
Yes.
there's absolutely nothing that brings me more joy.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's, all of that emerges so graciously and naturally. There's no pressure. In fact, it is the lack of pressure. It is the safety and
Yeah.
the permission to be exactly who you are, where you are, and being held with such honor and reverence in that
Yeah.
creates that real authentic inspiration to open. Like,
Yeah.
it's so, people don't need to be intimidated that there's going to be this expectation or pressure. It's like, whatever you bring, whatever degree of process you go on inside of yourself is a gift to
Yeah.
the whole.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Everyone is honored equally. Yeah.
Mhm. Truly.
There was something else that wanted to come true in that, and now it's gone bing. But yeah.
Well, seems like we maybe need to do another live and
Oh,
go a little
oh,
deeper.
oh,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. It was cards for Egypt. Can you pull a
Oh,
couple cards on
yes,
Egypt,
please.
please?
Yes, please. Please.
Whew, that was important. Came right back.
Okay, okay. This is the only official cards I've pulled this time. Okay. Oh, so we got 3. We've got in the center temperance, the divine intervention, healing,
Mm,
balance, restoring balance.
yay.
And on the one side, we have we've got this Queen of Swords, discernment, language, intentions. What I'm hearing, and I'm going to just throw this gauntlet down to both of you, and I'm willing to participate in this as well. But I'm hearing that there could be some kind of clear vision, mission statement. I'm
Mhm.
sure you already have lots of that, but really just concisely putting that as a prayer and an intention for the journey.
Yep.
That's be different than maybe what you've done before, and that what maybe other events are. So it's a
Yeah.
unique mission and vision related to this exact trip. And then that creates the foundation. It sort of sets the container to grow this divine intervention. And
Beautiful.
I have a feeling that we're going to be sort of holding space and continuing to build. I almost get that you may design some kind of journey experience for people who might not be ready to make the trip right now this year, but they want the preempt. They want the how do we set the tone for this?
Yes.
And it feels like there's people going to want to join in that process, even whether they attend the trip or not, they'll be there in spirit.
Yeah.
And that you're opening that part up to whoever wants to be part of that.
Yeah.
Almost like, yeah, I'm getting that we will have backers that stay here, but are with us there.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely
and then
beautiful.
affordability wise and accessibility wise and all of that, you're going to basically, and then it's sort of like this becomes either an annual thing or whatever. And people are already involved in
Yeah.
this. Like it's become uh
movement.
A movement. A movement. It's become a movement. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
beautiful.
love it. Love it. And then
Absolutely.
I feel like around April, we're going to see a real flourish of commitments and intentions where people are just like, yes, 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 yes.
Beautiful. So as we come up on 1 hour and 11 minutes and 11 seconds, we have a beautiful message here from Michael. Hi, Ashala. I loved your readings the last couple years. Helped me overcome my son's passing. Sending you lots of love. So,
Oh,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. And we're deeply connected with Michael as well. So, absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
And we're in for so much transformation. We really we know many of you are ready. And so if it might feel a little chaotic and unstable still, get yourself grounded, take some deep breaths,
Mhm.
reach out to a friend, reach out to us. And
Mhm.
yeah, we would absolutely love to connect with you. So, we love you, Shala.
Thank you. Thank you.
Likewise.
We love you
Blessings,
all.
everyone.
Yeah. Happy Black Moon. And what is on the other side of the darkness? The brightest light you can imagine.